let's get into some NFL draft, Skinny, because I think sometimes we make the mistake of talking about the draft in our big draft preview the day before the day the draft starts. And a lot of people listen to this podcast maybe throughout the weekend or on Monday or what have you. And so it kind of loses its shelf life there. Obviously, one of the big storylines going into this draft is the defensive overhaul. We've talked a little bit about that last week. I love the stat that Paul Dehner threw out there. I'm sure others of you have cited it, but since 2019, the Bengals have drafted 12 defensive linemen without a single one reaching 10 sacks. Do you lean towards their struggles to draft pass rushers? Do you lean towards that being them just bad scouting, missing on all those guys? Do you think they've had issues with player development, or do you think maybe it was more scheme related and something that Lou Anarumo did?
I think that's what we're going to find out, right? Is Al Golden and Jerry Montgomery, the new defensive line coach, are they able to get more out of Miles Murphy than Marion Hobby, the defensive line coach, and Lou Anarumo? I think this is the litmus test to find out if that's the case. I don't think it is. I think they draft sometimes more traits than they do production. I mean, Miles Murphy was a good player at Clemson, just from a production standpoint, but not a great player. Go back and look at some of his. They're not over the top great, but he has some traits, athletic traits they like. Joseph Osai had athletic traits they like. So is it too much basing it on, let's go for the traits over the production? And maybe that's where you have to, as a scouting department, go, maybe we need to look more at the production than the traits.
So I feel like pass rusher is such a premium position. Like you have to be able to throw the ball downfield. You have to have a quarterback who can make plays downfield. And then on defense, you have to have someone that can limit the other team's ability to do that by putting pressure on the quarterback, creating turnovers in that way. But with the Bengals' struggles to develop and draft pass rushers, should I be hesitant to say they should go pass rusher here in with the first pick?
I think they can go in so many different directions with that first pick. And again, I don't want to totally go best player on the board, but they can have, their board, have it just fall to them because they still need a plug and play guard. And maybe they think they can get that in free agency. And we talked a little bit last week. They do like the guys on the roster. They like Jackson Kirkland, who missed all last year with an injury. They think they can get more with a new offensive line coach with Cordell Volson. They brought back Cody Ford. And so, if a top guard falls to them in that first round, I wouldn't put it past them. I don't think they'd pass on an edge over that, to be honest with you, or even a safety. So that would be in play. I mean, to me, it could just go so many different ways. I mean, really, I don't think you're set at defensive tackle either, even though you're kind of, too deep there because you got Slayton that they signed in free agency and McKinley Jackson back and Chris Jenkins back and BJ Hill back. That's four right there, but none of them are really a potent pass rusher. I guess BJ Hill, if he can get some snaps off of him, can give you a little more pass rush juice, but they need an interior tackle that gives you some pass rush juice. They could go in that direction if one falls to them. So I know it's a cop-out to say that, but I do think it can go in just so many different ways depending on, okay, there's the best safety on the board. He's our best guy on the board at the moment. Let's go.
No, I totally agree. And I don't mean to say I think they're definitely going pass rusher. I guess my point was I'm excited about the idea of a pass rusher. I think it's something that they need. Obviously, you have the whole Trey Hendrickson deal playing out. And I just think it's really important in the NFL. Like, if you're going to choose one position to upgrade, regardless of what your current roster is, pass rusher is probably one of the top 2 or 3 positions that I would always be looking at. So from that perspective, I get excited about that idea. But I almost wonder, like, should I even be excited about the Bengals drafting another pass rusher? And also, when you look at some of the pass rushers that they're being associated with right now, like a guy like Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall, who's been dropping, or even, and I don't know if this one's realistic, but a guy like James Pierce, who's been slipping in drafts, the outstanding edge rusher from Tennessee. Both of those guys have some character issues, some off the field type, at least alleged issues that have been thrown their way that are maybe causing them to slip. So I just wonder, like, should I maybe not be as excited about the pass rushers, at least the ones that the Bengals are being associated with right now?
It's a fair point. I mean, one guy that I was talking about traits over productivity, Shamar Stewart's a first round grade from a lot of places who could fall to the Bengals. And I think he only had 1.5 sacks last year at Texas A&M, but he's got such athletic traits that people are rating him as a first round guy. Is that a guy that you take and then you hold your breath of, or taking traits over production? I don't know about not getting excited part of it. I think this is the litmus test. And we're going to find out, was this scheme, was this coaching, and will the new coaches and new scheme help Miles Murphy, Joseph Osai, and whoever the guy is they draft as an edge? Because I don't think they go, I'll be honest, I don't think they go outside of the first 2 rounds without getting an edge. I don't.
Yeah, it feels that way to me too. And, James Pierce seems like from a physical standpoint, a production standpoint, he seems like the guy I'd love to have. He matches, at least analytically, the type of profile that's done really well in the NFL. Mike Green, I'm a little more cool on. I could be talked into it or out of it. But my big concern there is it feels like, we just saw the Burton situation play out last year where the Bengals were being smarter than everyone else and taking the guy with some baggage to get that insane value, allegedly. I don't know if this is the draft that they can afford to do that. I don't want them to outsmart people. I don't want them to be reaching for value with a guy who has great traits and not the production, or a guy who does have the production and the traits, but maybe character issues that could be holding him back. I want them to get a guy that they are very certain is going to contribute right away. And if they can't find that guy at pass rusher, then I think I'm okay with them going in another direction.
Yeah, like I said, and there's a bunch of directions you can go. That's for sure. The board is pretty wide open.
One more question about the pass rusher thing. If they do draft an edge, does that signify to you that they're more likely to trade Trey Hendrickson, or do you think that's just they need depth at that position regardless?
Yeah, they need depth at that position. Joseph Osai did play well down the stretch. I think probably put himself in the starter mix. They do want to play Miles Murphy snaps. That's a given. They want to see what they've got in the guy. But let's just say Joseph Osai is meh, like he's been for most of his career, and Miles Murphy is just a dud that they never could get anything out of. You better have somebody else in the pipeline, because if you don't extend Trey Hendrickson, there's always the possibility of the holdout. There's always the possibility that he doesn't play. I don't believe that. We talked about that last week. I don't believe that will take place. But then there's also the possibility that he's gone after this year, and you better start having the pipeline refilled, and this is a place to refill it.
You've mentioned a few times that there are different ways that the Bengals could go with this pick. How open do you think they feel like it is? Do you think they are in best player available mode?
I do. I honestly do, because like I said, you have a bunch of needs at different position groups. And I just think you let the board fall to you, and whatever the best guy on your board at one of those position groups is, have a way, because there's plenty of them.
You've been doing the mock drafts. We talked a little bit about it last week. What names are you liking? Are there any out there, as you've been sifting through these names, that really jump out to you? Not necessarily a certain position, but actual guys?
Every mock I've done, I keep falling. Michael Williams from Georgia keeps falling to that spot. He's an edge rusher, and I've taken him each time. The one time I did, and I wanted to go a different route, I think I mentioned last week, I took Nick Emenwari, the safety out of South Carolina, then took an edge rusher in the second round. And that's what I go back to. I think in those first, let's just go, by the time day 2 is over, you're going to have 3 of the following 4 positions drafted, in my opinion: edge, safety, guard, linebacker.
Edge, safety, guard, linebacker. I like Walter Nolan, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss. Do you think that's a possibility, or probably not?
Yeah, no, it is. And some of my colleagues have talked about in some of their mocks having taken him. I know you need interior pass rush. I think it's more important now than ever, because people spend so much time trying to block the great edges. But like I said, you're already you're on the depth chart right now. You're too deep at your 2 tackle spots. Do you really need another one that early when you have other immediate needs?
It's a good point, but man, I think you did miss DJ Reader, and I think this is the type of guy who's good against the run. He's got the physical tools. I think he's an upgrade at that position, not just from a pass rush standpoint, but from a really clogging and anchoring the middle of that line.
Man, but here's the thing. So you've re-signed BJ Hill, you signed a free agent, and again, the free agent you signed, TJ Slayton, is just pretty much a run stopper. He has all of 2 career sacks in 4 years, but he is a run stopper. And then you spent a 2nd-round pick last year on Chris Jenkins, a 3rd-round pick last year on McKinley Jackson, and you're going back to that. Well, I'm not telling you you're wrong, Rick, because I don't want to say that's the thing they're not going to do, because I think it is in play.
It's a lot of resources spent at that position.
Yes, exactly.
No, I agree with you there, and that's why I wanted to bring him up, because I could easily see the mentality with the Bengals being like, we cannot put more resources into a defensive tackle. But when I look at the board and I see a name like him pop up, I'm like, man, that seems like it would be an exciting get for them. Jihad Campbell was another one I've seen out there, the linebacker from Alabama a lot. Any thoughts on him at all?
Yeah, that's an interesting one for many reasons. I heard a draft guy on ESPN 1530 yesterday from The Athletic talk about how he kind of has Micah Parsons traits to him, that, he could flip out and be a pass rusher. And boy, you think of the versatility of that. Like he said, he can kind of create his own position. And I'm thinking that is a great get. I don't know if he'll be there. I really don't. But yeah, he absolutely would be somebody that should be in play.
I believe the guy's name was Renard Wilson. Is that right?
Yeah.
Was that the hybrid linebacker defensive end that they kept bouncing back? They can never figure. I know that's like a thing that everyone talks about now as Micah Parsons, but whenever I hear that, I think of Bernard Wilson.
That's a great point. And I mean, they tried to fit a round peg into a square hole for sure. I mean, it never worked. They couldn't decide, is he a 3-4 stand-up linebacker or is he a 4-3 hand in the dirt end? And they could never get it right.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe this is a silly thing to do, but can we do like odds on what position they will take if you had to handicap them? Like if it's, what's the most likely position?
Yeah, I'd go 70% edge, 20% safety, 10% guard, because I don't know if the right guard falls there, and then you wait until the second or third round to address that spot.
Fair enough. And then go ahead.
And the other part to guard is, and even Zach Taylor mentioned this at the owners' meetings. I was not there, but reading what he talked about was that if they don't find what they want at the guard, because guard came up of what's your answer at guard at the moment other than what you got on your roster, and he talked about if it doesn't work out in the draft. And I think for them it has to be literally they've graded this guy as a plug and play starter at guard. I think that's the only way you take one, honestly, before day 2's over with. I
agree with that.
I didn't get them to guard in most of my mocks till the 5th round. Which is probably 4th or 5th round. That's probably too late in my opinion. Unless again, then you circle back after the draft and go get a veteran. There's a couple of them out there. The one name that surfaces a lot is Brandon Scherf, and I don't know how much they believe in him, or they probably would have signed him already. So I do think they have a plan B. I hope they have a plan B for sure. I don't think it can be. We just think Jackson Kirkland, Cody Ford, Cordell Volson are going to be our 2 starting guards on opening day. I just don't see maybe one of those guys being a starting guard, but not both.
I weirdly get the sense that we're going to have to figure out what plan B is, because it just doesn't seem like it's heading that direction. Like they're going to draft an offensive lineman early. Just make a final prediction. What are you going to do? You're going to stick with what you've been doing in the mock drafts?
Yeah, I mean, again, if Michael Williams is there, I would take him. I know the people now are starting to question Emin Wari. Is he just a box safety and not a great, open field safety? I don't know. I mean, I think everybody starts to nitpick at this point in the draft at what guys can't do. Tell me what the tape showed, and let's go from there. I'll go either the best edge or best safety on the board.
Do you think there's any chance that they'll be looking at skill positions in the first 2 or 3 rounds?
I don't. So I'm doing positional ones right now, and it's funny. I did quarterback, which we all know the answer there is they're not going to draft a quarterback, but I try to do it and look at other names in the draft just so people can have some names to look at. I did running back, and I do think that they will go to that on day 3 at some point, probably more of a speed back. And there's a lot of guys that are 5th, 6th round grades that actually were really productive college players. I did wide receiver yesterday, and part of what I put is round Bengals are most likely to take one. There's a lot of 3rd to 5th round guys. I mean, there's some guys that have 5th round grades that are absolute 4.3 burners that, that you can, hopefully plug and play and can be a more dynamic option than Andre Yoshivas. Listen, having T. Higgins and Jamar Chase is a good place to start, but and Yoshi's a nice guy to have as a depth piece on your roster. I don't want that to be, misconstrued, but he's not very dynamic. I mean, he just isn't. Right. And can you get some? That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted either Charlie Jones or Jermaine Burton to be, is a dynamic field stretcher, home run potential guy as that 3rd option. Well, Charlie Jones can't get healthy and can't get on the field, and Jermaine Burton to this point has been a turd. So I think they have to go back to the well one more time, and sometime in that 3rd to 5th round. I'm doing tight end today. In fact, I just finished it and it hasn't been posted yet, I don't believe. I think I saw a mock where somebody had Tyler Warren falling to the Bengals and taking him. And I even mentioned in my thing that if he was there, it would be awful tempting because he's such a dynamic player at that position. But listen, you re-sign Mike Gesicki to a 3-year extension. You have Drew Sample under contract. You re-sign Tanner Hudson to an extension. You re-sign Cam Grandy, who played some games last season. Eric All, I don't know when he's going to be back, but eventually he will be back at some point. Maybe not fully healthy the way we hope he will be. But your tight end room's too deep to even waste a pick on a tight end in this draft.
The one thing about Jermaine Burton that I don't understand is how is he possibly going to get better at football when he's constantly looking for a new apartment? You know how much it sucks to be apartment hunting in this current market?
No question.
I mean, the dude's just doing it like every other month. He's getting evicted and looking for a new place to live.
How about you just in the apartment you go to, you do the things you're supposed to do, like pay your rent and keep your place clean?
Well, let's not get logical here, Skinny.